The first thing I noticed was the lock. A new one. Bright silver, clean and unfamiliar against the dark wood of my front door. For a moment, I stood there on the porch with my suitcase still in my hand, staring at it like my brain refused to understand what my eyes were seeing. The late afternoon sun was hitting the windows of the house I had spent 10 years paying for. The same house I had left 8 months earlier when I deployed overseas. The same house that was supposed to be waiting for me. But something felt wrong. The porch furniture was gone. The wind chime my daughter loved had disappeared. Even the flower pots I used to water every weekend were missing. I tried my key anyway. It didn't fit. Behind me, a car door slammed somewhere down the street, and suddenly a cold thought slid into my mind. Had someone broken in? I pulled out my phone and dialed my brother. He answered on the second ring. When I asked why my key wasn't working, he laughed. Not surprised. Not confused. Just amused. Then he said something that made my stomach drop. "Oh, right," he said casually. "We sold that place." For a few seconds I thought I had heard him wrong. The word sold echoed in my head like it didn't belong there. My suitcase slipped from my hand and landed on the porch with a dull thud. "What do you mean sold?" I asked slowly. On the other end of the phone, my brother sounded relaxed, almost bored. Like we were talking about returning a borrowed tool. "Oh, come on," he said. "Don't act shocked." The way he said it made my chest tighten. "Where are you?" I asked. "At Mom's place," he replied. "You should probably come here. We need to talk." Need to talk. Those 3 words suddenly carried a weight I didn't like. Have you ever had that moment when you realize everyone else knows something you don't? I grabbed my suitcase again and walked back to my car. The drive to my mother's house took 15 minutes, but it felt longer. Every red light felt like it lasted forever. My mind kept circling the same question. How could someone sell a house that wasn't theirs? The answer seemed obvious. They couldn't. Unless something had happened while I was gone. When I pulled into the driveway, my brother's truck was already parked outside. So was my mom's sedan. The living room lights were on. Through the window, I could see them sitting at the dining table like they'd been expecting me. I stepped inside without knocking. The smell of my mom's cooking filled the house, something warm and familiar that normally made me feel calm. But tonight it just made the situation feel stranger. My brother leaned back in his chair when he saw me. He didn't look nervous. He didn't look guilty either. He looked pleased. Like someone who had been waiting for this moment. "Well," he said casually. "There she is." My mother didn't even stand up. Instead, she folded her arms and looked at me with an expression that already carried judgment. That's when I knew something was wrong. Very wrong. Have you ever walked into a room and realized the story had already been written and you were the last person to read it? I put my keys on the table slowly. "Start explaining," I said. My brother smirked. Then he said the words that made the room suddenly feel smaller. "I cashed out." For a moment I thought he was joking. I cashed out. The words hung in the air like they didn't belong in the same room as me. My brother leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, looking far too comfortable. "What does that even mean?" I asked slowly. He shrugged. "It means the house sold," he said. $950,000. Pretty good deal if you ask me. My stomach twisted. "You sold my house," I said. He tilted his head like he was correcting me. "Our house." Before I could respond, my mother snapped from across the table. Exactly, she said sharply. It was a family asset. Family asset. The phrase landed harder than anything else. Have you ever heard someone rewrite your life in a single sentence? That house is in my name, I said quietly. My brother chuckled under his breath. Yeah, about that. Something in the way he said it made the back of my neck prickle. What did you do? I asked. My mother leaned forward now, her voice suddenly colder. You've been overseas for months, she said. The house was just sitting there. So? So it made sense to use it, she replied. Use it. I stared at her, trying to process what she was saying. You mean rent it? My brother laughed again. No, he said. Sell it. My hands curled into fists at my sides. How could you even do that? I asked. He tapped the table lightly with one finger. Power of attorney. The room went quiet. Have you ever felt the exact second your trust collapses? My mother spoke before I could. You signed those papers before deployment, she said. Remember? Of course I remembered. The military legal office had told me to assign someone to handle emergencies while I was gone. Bills. Property maintenance. Basic responsibilities. Normal things families help each other with. But selling the house? That had never crossed my mind. You abused that authority, I said. My brother rolled his eyes. Oh, relax, he said. It's not like we wasted the money. My heart started pounding. Where is it? My mother answered calmly. Invested in... Something about the way she said it made my skin crawl. Invested where? I asked. My brother leaned forward now, smiling slightly. That's the funny part. That's the funny part. My brother said it like this was all some kind of clever story. Not like we were talking about the house I had spent 10 years paying for. The house where every room carried a memory. I stared at him. What did you do with the money? He shrugged again. A few things, he said casually. My chest tightened. What things? My mother answered this time, her voice calm and strangely defensive. Your brother needed help. Needed help. The phrase landed like a quiet explosion. With what? I asked. My brother leaned forward slightly, resting his elbows on the table. Debt, he said. Just one word. But it explained a lot. Have you ever watched someone casually admit something that changes everything you thought you knew about them? How much? I asked. Most of it, he said. The room went silent again. $950,000. Years of savings. Years of work. Gone. I felt something hot rising in my chest, but I forced my voice to stay steady. You used my house to pay your debt. My brother smirked. Technically, he said, our house. My mother nodded beside him. That house belonged to this family before you ever bought it, she said. Your father helped you with the down payment. My hands tightened. That was a loan, I said. Family doesn't keep score like that, she snapped. Have you ever realized that someone else has been rewriting history to justify what they did? I looked from one to the other. Neither of them seemed worried. Neither of them seemed guilty. If anything, they looked irritated that I wasn't grateful. You're overreacting, my brother said. Overreacting? I repeated. It's just a house. Just a house. The words echoed in my head. 10 years of mortgage payments. 10 years of repairs, upgrades, late nights planning how to make it better. All reduced to 2 words. Just a house. My mother shook her head. You're acting greedy, she said. This family needed that money. Something inside me snapped quietly then. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just a clear realization settling in. They didn't think they had done anything wrong. And that meant they believed they would never face consequences. I stood there for a long moment, breathing slowly. Then I pulled my phone out of my pocket. My brother frowned slightly. What are you doing? I looked directly at him. And dialed. My brother watched me with a half smile. The kind people wear when they're convinced they've already won. Who are you calling? He asked. I didn't answer right away. The phone rang once. Twice. Across the table, my mother's expression shifted slightly. Don't start drama, she said sharply. Drama. That word almost made me laugh. $950,000 had vanished. My home had been sold without my consent. And she thought the problem was drama. Have you ever noticed how people who cross the biggest boundaries are always the first to accuse others of overreacting? The call connected. Norfolk Police Department, the dispatcher said. For the first time since I walked into the house, my brother's smile faded. I kept my voice calm. Yes, I said. I need to report a fraudulent property sale. Silence filled the room. My mother stood up so quickly, her chair scraped across the floor. What are you doing? She snapped. My brother leaned forward now, his tone suddenly sharper. Hang up. I ignored him. My name is, I gave it clearly, and my house was sold while I was deployed overseas using power of attorney. The dispatcher's voice became more focused immediately. Do you believe the power of attorney was abused? Yes. Across the table, my brother slammed his hand down. Are you serious right now? My mother grabbed my arm. You're going to destroy this family. I slowly moved my arm away from her grip. Have you ever noticed how quickly people talk about family the moment consequences appear? This isn't about family, I said quietly. This is about theft. My brother laughed once, but it sounded forced now. You can't prove anything, he said. But something about the confidence in his voice had disappeared. The dispatcher asked a few more questions. Address. Timeline. Deployment dates. Each answer made the room feel heavier. Finally, she said, officers will be dispatched. I thanked her and ended the call. For a few seconds, no one spoke. Then my mother whispered something I never expected to hear. You wouldn't dare. I looked at her calmly. They already sold my house, I said. They dared first. For the first time since I walked into the house, the confidence in the room disappeared. My brother leaned back in his chair, but the relaxed smirk was gone. You're bluffing, he said. I didn't respond. Outside, a car passed slowly down the street. The normal sound of traffic suddenly felt louder than before. My mother paced near the kitchen counter now, shaking her head like she couldn't believe what I had just done. You're ruining everything, she said. Everything? I repeated. My voice stayed calm. That house was my life. My brother scoffed. Oh, please, you're acting like you built it with your bare hands. In a way I had. 10 years of early mornings. 10 years of saving instead of spending. 10 years of believing that when you worked hard enough, you eventually built something secure. And now they were acting like it had always belonged to them. Have you ever watched someone convince themselves they're right, simply because admitting the truth would be too uncomfortable? My brother leaned forward again. Listen, he said, even if the police show up, this isn't going anywhere. Why not? I asked. Because you signed the power of attorney, he said confidently. My mother nodded quickly beside him. Exactly. That gave us authority. Authority. The word echoed in my head. Authority to handle bills. Authority to manage emergencies. But selling the property? That was something else entirely. Power of attorney doesn't give you ownership, I said. My brother shrugged. Well, it gave us access. Then he added something that made the room feel colder. And the buyer already moved in. For a moment I didn't react. Because hearing that made the loss suddenly feel real. Someone else was already living in the house I'd spent a decade building. My mother crossed her arms again. You're going to regret this, she said quietly. But I shook my head. No, I replied. For the first time, I think I won't. And just then, headlights flashed through the front window. A car slowed in the driveway. My brother's face lost the last bit of color. Someone knocked on the door. The knock on the door wasn't loud. Just 2 firm taps. But it felt like the entire room stopped breathing. My brother stared at the door like he was hoping it might disappear if he waited long enough. My mother whispered under her breath, You actually called them. I didn't answer. Because at that moment, the truth was already standing on the other side of the door. The knock came again. My brother stood up slowly. This is ridiculous, he muttered, running a hand through his hair. He walked toward the door and opened it halfway. 2 police officers stood on the porch. Evening, one of them said calmly. We received a call about a possible fraudulent property sale. The words hit the room like a weight dropping. My brother forced a laugh. Yeah, that's a misunderstanding, he said quickly. But the officer's eyes had already moved past him. They landed on me. Are you the one who called? Yes, I said. They stepped inside. The living room suddenly felt much smaller. One officer took out a small notebook. Ma'am, he said to me, can you explain what happened? I told them. Deployment. Power of attorney. The house. The sale. Every word felt strangely calm coming out of my mouth. Meanwhile, my brother's confidence was fading quickly. He tried to interrupt once. This is a family matter. But the officer raised a hand. Sir, we'll get your side in a moment. Have you ever watched someone realize the story they believed in is about to collapse? My mother looked pale now. The officer finished writing a few notes. Then he looked directly at my brother. Do you have documentation for the sale? My brother hesitated. And that hesitation said everything. The hesitation didn't last long. But it was enough. The officer noticed it immediately. Sir? He repeated calmly. My brother cleared his throat and looked toward my mother for a second like he expected help. None came. Yeah, he said finally. We have paperwork. Where is it? The officer asked. My brother gestured vaguely toward the hallway. In my truck. The second officer stepped forward. All right, he said. We'll need to take a look. The room stayed silent as my brother walked outside with them. Through the living room window, I watched the flashing red and blue lights reflect off his truck. My mother sat down slowly at the table. She looked smaller somehow. For the first time all night, she didn't have anything to say. Have you ever watched someone realize the story they believed in was about to fall apart? A few minutes later, the officers came back inside. The first officer looked directly at me. "Ma'am," he said, "based on what we're seeing here, the authority granted under this power of attorney may not extend to selling the property." My brother started talking quickly. "You don't understand. We were helping the family." But the officer's voice stayed firm. "That will be sorted out during the investigation." The word investigation seemed to hit him harder than anything else. My mother covered her face with one hand. The officer turned back to me. "We're going to file a report and refer this to property fraud investigators," he said. "You may also want to contact a real estate attorney." I nodded slowly. Because for the first time since I stepped onto that porch earlier that day, something inside me felt steady again. Not angry. Not overwhelmed. Just clear. My brother had believed something very simple. That family loyalty meant silence. That I would accept what they did to keep the peace. But sometimes peace isn't worth the price of everything you've built. Sometimes the only real choice is accountability. And as the officers walked my brother back toward the door to ask a few more questions, I realized something important. The house might have been sold, but the truth, that was just getting started. What would you have done in that moment? Comment below.